All right, if I were starting an e-commerce brand today and I wanted to scale to 10 million without a big team, the first thing I would do is set up Claude Cowork because it can quite literally run your entire brand for you now. So I've started over a dozen brands and helped them scale past 8 figures, apart from running our own brand neat. And the workflows I'm about to give you are the exact ones that we're using to handle the day-to-day workflows that would take the place of a full team. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything, the entire setup from A to Z. So by the end of this, Claude will have the power to handle your ads, your email, your website, your creative all on its own, even when you're not at your laptop. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing to do is connect Claude with the tools that your brand uses on a day-to-day basis. Let me show you exactly what I mean. All right, now to do that, you'll go into Claude, you'll go to the sidebar right here, you'll go to connectors, and then you can see all the tools that you could potentially connect to. The reason you do this is because everything in your setup depends on Claude seeing the actual numbers without you having to paste them in and do a manual upload. Because once it can see your store, it can see your ads, everything it writes for you is based on what's actually happening with your brand every week. It has context in real time. All right, so the first connection I like to set up is obviously Shopify. This gives Claude live access to your products, your sales, your orders, your inventory, your customers. So when I need to write a campaign for a product, it already knows the price. It knows how the bundle's built. It knows the materials. It knows everything about it. It knows what's selling each month, what we should push more of, what we have low inventory of to kind of be wary of. And I'll show you a prompt that I just did to understand top selling products. So right here, I'm showing a very simple prompt. I'm like, hey, what are the top selling colors that we have right now for the month? So it quickly goes into my Shopify account and it can tell me, hey, black, green, midnight blue, these are the top seller. Then there are some other ones that start to drop off. That way I know what to buy more of, what to push with our marketing campaign. This was a simple 1-sentence prompt that I was able to enter in to start to get these insights. No manual reports were created. Then after I connect Shopify, I connect both Meta and Google ad accounts. And I also have a dashboard tool called Lifetimely where I connect that as well. So this lets Claude see the live performance. So it knows which campaigns are working, which ones are starting to waste your budget, what ads have fatigue, what creative we need to scale. And so this is the same connection behind every ad report that I get that I'll show you later, where it tells me where to put my money before I go another day where it's wasting money and it's wasting that spend. And you can even see here, it's literally going through our different dashboards analysis, it's filtering, really trying to get me the insights that I need on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis. So after we connect Shopify, after we connect the ads, we connect Klaviyo for email and SMS. So you can see the simple connector right here. It's literally the click of a button. So now Claude can see my email flows, which ones are performing well. It can see our campaign numbers. It can see our email pop-ups, how those are converting and how much revenue emails are really bringing in. So when I ask it to draft an email, it isn't starting from scratch. It's starting from what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past. So it's constantly getting better in real time without me having to do anything. And the last thing you want to do is really connect your customer reviews. So you could use something like a Yotpo or an Okendo, and you can connect that. You could do that through the direct connection, or you can give Claude Cowork access to your Chrome browser so it can access it through your Shopify ecosystem. Another thing that I like to do is we actually will have it crawl reviews of our competitors. It'll crawl Reddit to understand what people are saying about our category or industry to give us an unfair advantage. So that way, whenever you're going to market with new campaigns, you're using the exact words of your customers. And for us, that's been our secret sauce. Our highest converting copy on our ads and our landing page are just copy and pasting language what the customer's already using. So Claude becomes your best-in-class copywriter because it's trained off of your customers. So here's our Reddit ad builder where it's really crawling Reddit to get ideas for content. It's going through the ad library to get inspiration for template designs. So you can do this all with Claude to get reviews to then make creative for you. All right, so how to make Claude sound exactly like you. Now, once you have all the data connected, that's a great first step. But you'd think Claude would write like your brand right away, but it won't. The thing is, the data only tells you what's happening to your store, not how your brand sounds, what really makes you money, right? So the next thing you're gonna wanna do is build a small set of files that starts to train it both on those things. Basically, you need to do a knowledge transfer of your brand voice. And don't skip this part, because if you do, your copy is going to really frustrate you and you're going to end up sounding off brand. You're going to end up starting from scratch. So the more time and effort you put into this one, the better. So first up is your brand voice file. So let me show you some nuance in how we set up our brand voice file. As you go into here, you can kind of see this brand architecture that we made last year. So first we started at a high level as far as like, hey, this is how we write. We're witty, we're sophisticated, we lean a little more masculine. Avoid the cliches. We're not some slapstick brand, right? And then we give some tips on how to navigate copy for ads, for email, for the website, right? And then we start talking about the persona. That way they know not only how we speak, but who we're speaking to. So we don't talk about people with sweat problems. We talk about people who run hot. And that's a very small nuanced thing, but it's very important. And we give examples of that. We kind of tie it back to our mission. We talk about the brand philosophy as well. We give some context on the brand, so it has that background. It talks about the overall brand pillars as far as when we speak, how do we speak? What are those core pillars like technology, performance, versatility, and really selling confidence? The other thing is, I think it's important to put a do list and a don't do list. That way it knows what good looks like. This has been one of the biggest unlocks for us, because the more clear you are, the better it's going to understand things. So doing that do and don't do list. So this has been a really big unlock. Having this, it really cascades across all of the marketing campaigns that you would want to do. Next, you'll want a customer language file. This one is built from your customer reviews, from Reddit threads, where people talk in your category about the problem you solve. So to put it together fast, grab your last 100 reviews. Then you want to go through Reddit, find 3 to 4 threads or boards where people are in your category, in your niche. And what you really want to look for is, what are some of those emotional cues that people talk about when they talk about your problem? And then you want to use that to put that into this document. And you can have a very solid version of this literally in under an hour, where you can have copy written the way your customers actually talk about it. This beats basically anything you would try and do off the top of your head. And what I'm showing here right now is the document that we have, which is essentially our customer language file. And notice how it looked at themes of how people talk, from the theme of confidence and self-conscious. And we even put source, whether it's from a review or whether it's from Reddit. Then we have the theme of that specific moment when sweat happens. Use cases are fantastic when it comes to having a potential customer really resonate with the problem you solve. Another one is product proof and surprise. We have how customers describe switching from other brands. This is huge if you're in a crowded space, to really understand your point of differentiation. And these have been the foundation of some of the great marketing campaigns we've built. All right, then you have your margin files. This is where you write down what it costs to make your product, the margin of each bundle, your average order value, your customer acquisition cost, your return on ad spend targets. That way, Claude, whenever it's helping you make decisions around ads or pricing or bundles, it's working from what actually makes you money, what allows you to be profitable as you're scaling. Without this, it'd be really dangerous to run growth, because you're getting suggestions that just don't make sense from a business perspective. That way it has the guardrails of how to run a profitable, high growth business. And here's an example of one for Neat with our margins in action with our margins file. So we talk about the cost to make the product, the retail price, what our target gross margin is. We gave our goal for average order value and what that contribution margin should be, so we have enough to reinvest in more inventory. And then we kind of gave guardrails on, hey, what are the goals for return on ad spend, when to scale, when to hold, when to cut. Same for cost to acquire someone, marketing efficiency ratio, MER, and just ad frequency. And we even did it by some of our flagship products and offerings. So it's not just for a single SKU, because we sell a lot of bundles. That way we're giving our AI tool the guardrails on really how to manage the business. Now, the last one is what I call the founder file, right? This is where you write down how you actually think and operate as a founder, the frameworks you use to make decisions, the numbers you care about the most, and how you want Claude to communicate back to you. Without this one, Claude is just going to give you typical marketing or growth or leadership advice that you could literally apply to anybody. But when you have this file dialed in, Claude will actually make recommendations that match exactly to your business, exactly to how you think and how you make decisions. So it works like a second version of your brain. Let me show you some insights into mine. So what I'm showing right right here is some of my founder file and what I have in there. So first, I love frameworks. And so our companies run on one simple framework from the book Traction called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So I want my Claude to use that framework as well when it's thinking through strategic things. So we put in what it is, how to use it, what Claude should do, and key EOS systems or tool we use, like our ongoing scorecard, or how we do rocks, or our level 10 executive meeting. EOS is more how to operate. There's another framework that 10x is easier than 2x that I like about thinking through strategic problem solving, where it's thinking big and at scale. That way, Claude really is aligned with what my goals are with the companies that I'm running. Another one is offer over everything. I'm a huge fan that when solving a problem, we need to go to the core and really understand the go-to-market offer and the promise we're doing and how that ripples through everything else, rather than looking for tactical solutions when it might need to be a strategic solution first. And then I talk about the numbers I care about the most, so it can really weight these as it's making decisions as the primary metrics, and other ones could be secondary, right? So for Neat, the e-commerce brand, it's very simple. It's like my marketing efficiency ratio needs to be over 3.5. My ROAS, return on ad spend, should be 4. Cost per acquisition under 75. With growth, it's really around monthly recurring revenue and how healthy is our pipeline. And then when it comes to how it should talk to me, I like scannable, bold, and useful. Speak to me like an executive that's on the run in between meetings. Tell me what I need to know to make business decisions, right? I even give examples of this. And that way it knows how I like to process things and how I like to make decisions. It did take some work to set this up, but my goodness, it has scaled really well across how we operate. And by the way, if you run an e-commerce brand and you want help scaling past 8 figures, click the first link in the description below to book a free strategy call, where we can talk about how we could potentially implement this system in your company to help you grow faster. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Let's talk about the Claude skills. Once your data is connected and your files are written, you've basically onboarded Claude to your brand. From here, the job you find yourself doing over and over can be saved as Claude skills. If you haven't used one before, a skill is a safe set of steps that you can run with a short prompt. So you're not telling Claude how to do the same task again and again and again. So right now I'm in Claude, and under Cowork, if you go to customize, you can see plugins, and these plugins are essentially a collection of skills. For example, I could go to my plugin where we see our skills for email. And so these are all the things we do with email, from copywriting to strategy to doing email flows to doing research. And then the cool thing is we can just activate these skills, and right away it'll take something that I used to do again and again, and I can do it automatically. So for example, with that same example as an email, to run that skill, I simply do a backslash, and I can go down here to email copywriter. I can do for email campaign for Father's Day with 15% off. And now it's going to take everything I've trained it on for writing an email, and it'll start to do it with this campaign in mind. So here's the final result, where it starts to draft out the campaign for the Father's Day. It shows the creative direction it wants to do, the major call outs, the offer, the call to action. I've trained it to give me 3 subject lines, to give me the preview text, the headline, and then it's giving me the body copy, and there's 2 big call outs. It knows the character constraint we want it to have, and it knows how we want to structure these, and it's doing in our voice, our brand voice that we've trained it on. So now building one of these, it's painfully simple. You run the task with Claude once the normal way, going back and forth until the output is really dialed into what you want. And then you tell Claude simply save these steps, make it to a scalable skill that you can use again and again. So after that, getting the same job done goes from a whole session of back and forth conversations to literally doing a single prompt. So a lot of people get stuck just retyping long prompts in every new session, and they're starting from scratch each time. But once your skills are saved, you can really run them with just a few words and get the same quality every time. The key is setting it up the right way and really fine-tuning it and stress testing it the first time. Now, the first skill I run for my brand Neat is the weekly numbers recap. So it reads my Shopify, looks at my ad campaigns, look at email, and then it writes out a short summary of how each channel did last week and what I should look for first. So instead of opening 3 different dashboards and tools and toggling the dates, I get one recap in my Slack, in my email that is ready to go and has my attention. So what I'm showing here is basically every day I get an update of how our ads are performing by country, so I can understand the good and the bad. It's showing me our target return on ad spend, our performance for the last 30 days, last 70 days, our daily budget, and it shows it for Meta and it shows it for Google. This used to be super time consuming, but now it's a skill that runs and it lands in my Slack every day. So I have the data I need to make good strategic decisions instantly. The second skill writes my next round of ad angles. So basically I give it my best performing ads along with customer reviews, voice of customer analysis that we went over earlier, and then it starts to create the next batch of ad hooks that I want to test. And the cool thing is you can do this quarterly, monthly, weekly as it's recrawling reviews or Reddit threads, so the content is always fresh. That way I always have new angles to test. I'm never out of ideas. All right, so now let me show you the Reddit ad builder skill we have, where essentially we crawl Reddit to look at different forums where they talk about the problem we're solving. And for me, that's around shirts that hide sweat. So I simply run this skill and then it starts to go through the process of looking at conversations around our products, around competitors, to see the problem people have, how they're articulated, what people say about competitors, good or bad. And it starts to come up with these interesting angles. So for example, one is I can't wear colors again, have to just wear black because everything else hides sweat. Another one was the confidence unlock, where people have anxiety and they're self-conscious because of their shirts that show sweat. They want a shirt that hides it so they don't lack confidence. Another one is people that have tried other solutions like painful deodorants or double undershirts. And then another one is the everyday uniform, where people like their shirts so much where it becomes their standard uniform. Another good one that we found was people are doing surgery because of their sweat issues, and this is now an alternative to that. This is for severe cases like hyperhidrosis. But these are ideas that we wouldn't have thought of if we wouldn't have taken the time to have a skill that could crawl Reddit and really understand how customers talk about this problem. The other exciting thing is you can have Claude run without you. Now there's still one thing left, because every skill I just showed you still needs you to start it. So the last step is to put one on a schedule where it runs on its own and you just read what it produced. Here's what I'd like to show is where we have scheduled tasks to help us. So for example, for Neat, I've scheduled a daily performance update that I get every day at 6 a.m. that gets slacked to me. I have another one which is a little bit more detailed. It's my Monday briefing, where it looks at all my conversations from the past week. It looks at transcripts, it looks at the data to tell me what I need to focus on right as I walk into the office on Monday. These things used to be a task I would do on Sunday nights that would take a couple hours. Now I got my time back because it does it for me automatically and it lands right where I need it in Slack at the start of the day. And once it's on a schedule, that work just happens every day, whether you open a laptop or not. A lot of times I'll schedule these for late night hours when there's less demand of usage. So I wake up and it's waiting for me. So it's almost like you have an employee working for you while you sleep at the cost of a Claude subscription. So anyway, the first skill I have running is a daily check of my ad account. Because we put so much money into paid acquisition, this is an important one. So every morning before I open up my laptop, Claude has already gone through my account. It's find ads that aren't performing well, the ones that are working, how we should allocate it, what regions, what countries are really working well. So the first couple of hours I used to spend every morning was kind of going through the ads manager with my coffee, understanding what's working, what's not. It would take, 20, 40, 60 minutes. Now it just comes right into my inbox so I can focus on that high leverage work. So the second thing I have scheduled is the weekly recap skill from earlier, except now it runs by itself every Monday morning. Because I don't know about you, sometimes it's hard to transition from the weekend to work and you got to pick up where you left off. So it gives me a rundown of everything that happened the past week, what channels worked, what campaigns did or didn't work. So when I start the week, I have the numbers, I have context from all my Read AI transcripts to remember the open loose ends from meetings. What I'm showing now is the briefing I get every Monday. So it talks about, hey, what's coming up for the week, where we left off, decisions to be made, and hey, here's some open open loops that we need to work on. And then it has action items by person, anything in Slack that I might have missed or that is really critical and key, and some of the agenda starters for that day. And so one thing that's really nice is at the very end, I then have it take the persona of a chief growth officer to talk about less of the tactical and more of the strategic things that I need to focus on. The thing that I love is this one right here. It's like, hey, you've started to do 18 customer interviews. This is gold. You should leverage this to then start to do copy for emails, for subject lines, for ads, as opposed to focusing on some of the tactical administrative stuff. This is something that can kind of compound through all of our marketing work. Now, the third and final scheduled workflow I have is the monthly check of my email flows that runs on the first of every month. So this skill goes through every email flow I have set up in Klaviyo. It finds the ones that maybe aren't performing. It gives me some notes on subject line tests, call to action tests, offer tests, timing tests that I should think about tweaking, and then I can approve it. This way, my email flows keep improving each month, even when I'm not going in to check them. And candidly, this was something that was being neglected, that now with Claude, it's actually getting done and we're not dropping the ball on it. Also, for all these skills, I have Claude send the output straight to Slack. So me and my whole team can get it in one place to make decisions. And that integration is so simple, but it is key to make this frictionless when it's already embedded into your workflow. You can also have it drop it into a Google Doc, into your inbox, whatever you check first thing in the morning. The integrations are kind of unlimited. Now, this system isn't going to make the big judgment calls for you. You still need to be the one making these important decisions. What it changes is that you're no longer the one starting and preparing everything yourself, spending time on data mining and filtering and analysis. All you have to do is you have to play the part of making the actual judgment. Once you have this in place, when you use Claude to do this, it levels you up from being in execution mode to being in strategic mode. And for me, that's a big unlock, to have space to make those high impact, high leverage decisions. Now, you could go set this up yourself, and I would really challenge you to try and do that just to learn this muscle. And if you get it dialed in, like I have, you're gonna have an insane amount of leverage and probably get way better results than what you're getting now. If you run an e-commerce brand, and I just went through something that seems like a lot of work, and you'd rather have us come in and do an audit, set it up for you, dial some things in to really help this go across your entire funnel so you don't have to think about it, click the link in the description below. We'd love to book a strategy call with you to see if this is a fit. On the call, we're gonna dissect what's working, what's not working well with your e-commerce brand and with your Claude setup. To really understand, okay, here are the opportunities, here's what's holding you back, here's where we could have an impact, here's where we don't do work. So again, book a free strategy call, click the link in the description below, and we'd love to hear from you to see if we could help. And if you want to see what happened when I let Claude run my entire brand for 30 days, check out this next video. I think you'll enjoy it to see what happened.